Hi there, I'm Becca, short for Rebecca, and my dad's the mayor. Sounds cool, huh? Think again. It's a nightmare. I'll tell you why, but before I do, please like and subscribe. When I was a kid, my dad and I were best friends. We danced in TikTok videos, watched movies every night, and we even had our own rock band. But when Dad became the mayor, everything changed. He never had time for me. So he hired a horrible old nanny named Miss Boot, which didn't make any sense. I mean, really, who needs a nanny at 15? Stop chewing with your mouth open. You weren't raised in a barn. And no more candy, only vegetables for you. No video games either. They'll rot your brain. I tried everything to get Dad's attention. I got straight A's in school, I sent him funny memes, and I even went to his office to show him my new dance moves, but nothing worked. For his birthday, I made him a special dinner, but as I was cooking, I glanced out the window and saw a cute boy across the street waving at me, so I had to go talk to him. And one thing led to another, and the kitchen caught fire. When Dad got home, he was furious.
What happened?
The last thing I wanted was Dad mad at me, so I made up a little white lie. It was the strangest thing. I was out here smelling flowers when I suddenly saw flames from the kitchen. If you ask me, I think it was Miss Boot. She's a creepy old lady. She's jealous of us, and I think she's up to no good. Of course, Dad took Miss Boot's side and grounded me for lying. I gave up trying to get Dad's attention and started focusing more on me. One morning, I decided to ditch school, so I stole the keys to one of my dad's cars and drove myself to the beach. I had so much fun swimming and sunbathing, and even got the most amazing tan. When I walked back to the parking lot, Dad's car was gone. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find it. It was getting late, so I called an Uber and went straight home, hoping Dad wouldn't notice the car was missing. Hey, he hadn't driven it in months. It was possible. When I got home, I ran right into Dad and Miss Boot.
How was school, honey?
It was great. Lots of learning. Your teachers called and said you didn't show up to your classes. Oh, there must be some misunderstanding. I was working on a special project studying the mating rituals of sand fleas.
And my car?
I was gonna tell you, it got caught in a flash tornado. It was picked up and flew into the sky. Daddy, it was so terrible and scary. I barely made it out alive. I think I should lie down and forget about this horrible day. Dad didn't believe a word I said and grounded me forever, especially since my teachers ratted me out and a couple of criminals used Dad's car in a bank robbery. It took my dad weeks to clear that mess up. A few months later, I got the greatest news. Mean old Miss Boot was retiring. The day she left, I celebrated. I stuffed my face with candy and played video games all night long. But the next morning, Dad spoiled everything.
I'm hiring a new nanny to look after you.
Hello? I'm practically an adult. I can take care of myself. Before I could plead my case, the new nanny walked in. Her name was Miss P, and she had a daughter named Amy. They both looked like Disney princesses. They wore flowers in their hair, and I swear I heard birds singing when they smiled.
Miss P and Amy will live in the servants' quarters. They'll be helping out around the house.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Becca. You're so pretty. I really hope we can be friends. I glanced at myself in the mirror. My hair was a mess, my face was puffy, and I had chocolate on the corners of my mouth. Clearly, this girl was blind. I stormed off to my room and pouted for the rest of the day. Don't judge me, like you're perfectly mature all the time. To my surprise, I started to enjoy having Miss P and Amy around. Miss P kept our house sparkling clean, and she was the best cook. She made my favorite foods and told me funny stories. Amy was pretty cool too. She loved playing video games and watching sci-fi movies with me. Even though Amy and Miss P didn't have much money, Amy was still the best-dressed girl I knew. One day we went shopping together, and she gave me the best advice. Green is totally your color. It brings out your eyes. I don't know. I'm not really into dresses. Trust me, with that dress and those shoes, you'll look like a supermodel. Amy was right. As we walked through the mall, everyone kept staring at me and giving me compliments. A couple of boys even asked me for my number. After that, Amy and I were attached at the hip. We were total besties. I begged Dad to pay Amy's tuition so we could go to the same school, and he said yes. On our first day, I introduced Amy to my other best friends, Layla and Jasmine, and they loved her. Amy even joined them on the cheerleading team. I was never into cheerleading. I was too busy coming up with new dance moves to post on my TikTok and YouTube channel. A couple of months later, Amy, Layla, and Jasmine went away for a week to cheerleading camp. But when Amy came back home, something was wrong. She barely looked at me. Every time I tried to talk to her, she'd run the other way until I ambushed her at her locker. Something's up. Why are you acting so strange? Amy pulled me into a corner and whispered, It's Layla and Jasmine. I'm not sure how to say this, but never mind. It's nothing. I don't want to ruin your friendship. Forget I said anything. Just tell me. No one will ever know we had this conversation. I promise. What Amy said next rocked my world. She told me that Layla and Jasmine thought I was a horrible dancer, the most annoying girl in school, and they were only friends with me because my dad was the mayor. Amy even showed me text messages on her phone of Layla and Jasmine making fun of me. I was so mad I was about to explode. Later, I saw Layla and Jasmine in the cafeteria laughing, and they had the nerve to smile at me like they were my friends. I stormed right up to them. You backstabbing witches! You think you're so cool, but you're as dumb as a box of rocks. Are you for real? As serious as a math test. They stood up and got in my face. Okay, loser, you think you're special, but you're just a basic chick. Well, you're both as ugly as a horse's butt, and you smell like porta potties. Jasmine pushed me. I shoved her back. Then I snatched some ice cream off a kid's lunch tray and threw it in their faces, which turned into a huge food fight. I was suspended for a week, but it felt really good to kick those two-faced jerks out of my life. I felt bad about betraying Amy, though, and begged her to forgive me. Eventually, she did, and we got even closer. I even told her about my secret crush, a football player named Mike. Why don't you tell him how you feel? I'm totally not his type. Of course you are. Let's have a double date. Amy set up the date a couple nights later. I put on my best dress and spent an hour doing my makeup. When I arrived at the restaurant, I had the shock of my life. I saw Amy kissing Mike. My face turned as red as a chili pepper as my heart shattered to pieces. Amy spotted me and walked over. Hey, you don't look so good. Are you feeling all right? How could you do this to me? What? I thought you'd be happy. Why would I be happy? I caught you making out with my secret crush. Your secret crush is Mike? I thought you said Ike. I swear, that's what I thought, and I invited him. I turned around and saw Ike, the weirdest kid in school, staring at me. The whole night was a disaster. I had to watch Amy and Mike making out for hours. A few times when Amy and Mike were kissing, I caught Amy glancing at me. Beneath her sweet smile and soft brown eyes was something sinister. I tried to keep my distance from Amy, but she never let me get far. She'd show up in my room late at night. Are you still mad at me, bestie? In the backseat of my car. I feel like you're avoiding me. She'd ambush me after class. We're still friends, right? I couldn't even go to the bathroom without running into her. Want to hang out after school? She was totally creeping me out. I hid out in the school library to avoid her, but a few days later, something crazy happened. The principal called me into her office and accused me of cheating. I was horrified. No, wait, that's not true. I've never cheated in my life. Then Amy walked in with tears in her eyes. Dad was right behind her. I'm sorry, Becca. I couldn't keep lying for you. I had to come clean. I told the principal how you've been forcing me to do your homework and helping you during tests for months.
Shame on you, Becca! I can't believe you'd do something like this!
I'm innocent, Dad. You have to believe me. Amy's a liar. She's scaring me, sir. The last time she was this angry, she hit me. Dad gave me the saddest look. I couldn't believe he was falling for Amy's lies.
I am so disappointed in you, Becca.
I'd had enough. I jumped out of my seat and charged toward Amy. She ran around the room screaming for help. Dad and the principal had to pull us apart. After that, Dad sent me away for a month of therapy. When I got back, things took a horrible turn. Dad announced that he and Amy's mom were getting married. After the wedding, Dad showered Amy with gifts and attention. He invited Amy and her mom to all his political events and left me at home. It was the worst. Amy stole all my friends, my secret crush, and my dad in a matter of months. I was so mad I wanted to scream. I tried meditating to calm myself down, and when that didn't work, I ate a tub of ice cream. Then early one morning, I woke up to someone pounding on the front door. I raced down the stairs. The police were at the door, and they had an arrest warrant. Someone had accused Dad of stealing money from the city.
This is outrageous!
My husband is an honest man. This has to be a mistake. The police ignored us, arrested Dad, and hauled him off to jail. I was devastated. Miss P fainted, and Amy was nowhere to be found. Dad swore he was innocent and tried to fight the case, but during the trial, the prosecutor called Amy to the stand. She told this crazy story about how my dad was a crook. The mayor is a monster. He stole money from the children's hospital, a homeless shelter, and a retirement home. I couldn't let him hurt all those innocent people, so I printed copies of all his bank transactions and gave them to the police. The lawyer showed the judge all the evidence. Dad swore he was innocent, but the evidence against him was too strong. On the day of the sentencing, everyone in town was there, even Miss Boot. The judge sentenced Dad to 20 years in jail. Dad and Miss P started crying their eyes out, and Amy flashed a sinister smile. I was so angry, my hands started shaking. Then Amy whispered in my ear, "Too bad about your dad. Now he'll rot in jail and no one can do anything about it." Funny how a few little lies could do so much damage. Just as I was about to smack Amy in the face, Miss Boot pulled me away. "Calm down, child. Act like a lady. Your father taught you better than that. I heard what that nasty girl said to you, but hitting her won't help your case. She's evil and she ruined Dad's life. We have to stop her. The best way to fight a lie is with the truth." Miss Boot walked away without another word, and then I got an idea. That night, Miss P, Amy, and I were packing our things to move out of the mayor's mansion. While Miss P and Amy were downstairs, I snuck into Amy's room. She hadn't packed yet, so I searched around to find evidence to prove that my dad was innocent. I was just about to give up when I found a small notebook tucked away in her drawer. Inside, it had pictures of me and my dad with X's on our faces, a bunch of old newspaper clippings, and a photograph of a young Amy standing next to an old woman in a hospital bed. The articles explained that Amy's grandmother lost her apartment after my dad signed a bill to demolish the building and replace it with a shopping mall. Amy's grandma collapsed during a protest, hit her head on the ground, and fell into a coma. It was such a sad story. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around to see Amy with this demented look on her face. "Your dad had to pay for hurting my family, and now it's your turn." Amy picked up a broom and charged toward me like a maniac. I thought I was a goner, and then Miss P and Miss Boot appeared out of nowhere. Miss Boot snatched the broom out of Amy's hand. Miss P stepped between me and Amy.
"Amy, stop this right now. What happened to your grandma wasn't the mayor's fault. The city council made that decision."
"But it's not fair."
"I know, honey, but what you're doing isn't right. It won't help your grandma, but perhaps I can. My son is a neurologist, and I can ask him to take a look at your grandmother, but under one condition."
Miss Boot glanced at me. "You tell the truth about my father." Amy agreed. We all went to the police, and Amy told them how she lied about Dad and had hired someone to make up all the evidence against him. Dad was released from prison, and Miss Boot fulfilled her promise. She told her son about Amy's grandma, who decided to put her into a clinical trial where she had a great chance of recovering fully. On the day of Amy's trial, Dad felt so sorry about Amy and her grandma that he asked the judge to be lenient. The judge sentenced Amy to a year of therapy at a mental institution. Dad was reinstated as mayor, but every day he made sure to spend more time with me and Miss P. Miss P apologized for not believing me and taking Amy's side, but I still felt guilty. Dad, if I hadn't lied so many times to you before, you would have believed me when I told you about Amy. None of this should have happened. This is all my fault.
You can't blame yourself, honey. You had no control of what Amy would do. All we can do now is pick up the pieces and try to move on with our lives.
And that's what we did.